Hey, do you play in bands? I did for the longest time. And I wish that I knew that DistroKid was a thing. I don't even think it existed back then. DistroKid makes music distribution fun and easy with unlimited uploads, and artists keep 100% of your royalties and earnings. 1 million plus artists rely on DistroKid to get their music on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, TikTok, Tidal, Instagram, and all the major streaming services. When you get DistroKid, you can see a DistroKid bank and withdraw your earnings. You get notified when you've earned royalties, and you can withdraw via the app. And you can even check your streaming stats on Spotify and Apple. Get 30% off your first year on DistroKid by going to distrokid.com/VIP/101pod. 30% off for your first year. That's not bad. We know it's a tough world out there. Why don't you make it easier for yourself? And to get 30% off that free year as an artist, where you get 100% of your royalties and earnings, go to distrokid.com/VIP/101pod. All right, stay with me. I'll be right back after this.
With Amex Gold, you can experience the gold standard. You get access to exceptional dining, plus 4 times membership rewards points on eligible dining purchases. That's the powerful backing of American Express. Terms apply. Cap applies. Learn more at americanexpress.com/withAmex.
The Volvo XC60 plug-in hybrid is about performance, not just on the road, but in life, where the only speed that matters is how fast you can slow down. Performance where it matters the most. Visit volvocars.com/US.
Hey, all right, you're listening to 101 Part-Time Jobs with me, Giles Bidder. This is the podcast where we speak to musicians and artists about all the different jobs they've done. The jobs of being an artist, jobs in retail and supermarkets, and in Blossom's case, working at the Alma Lodge Hotel in Stockport, where a few of the members of Blossom's worked, including Joe and Tom, who we speak to on today's episode. There's going to be a full-length sort of documentary style interview where we visit the Alma Lodge Hotel, speak to their old boss, and get all the goss from back in the day. That's going to be on YouTube next week. This is the interview part of that, where we sat in the Blossoms, the excellent little boozer that they're named after. Great little spot in Stockport, where we talked about, well, the beginnings of the band up until today, and the job or responsibility, all those mixture of feelings that come with being an independent band. Stockport is a working class town. They've stuck around the area. Tom is married to Joe's sister. There's a lot of family, a lot of heart and soul that goes into Blossoms. And I think that comes out on today's episode. Blossom's 5th album, Gary, comes out on Friday. They've had, up until now, 3 UK official #1 albums. Maybe Gary's going to be the 4th. I think it deserves to be. It's an amazing sounding record, produced with James Skelly from The Coral, some co-writes with C-Matt, and Tom Ogden's lyrics are really relatable, they're charming. Blossoms really are this understated British rock band that are somehow mainstream but also independent, and they're a rare breed. So here's Tom and Joe from Blossoms on 101 Part-Time Jobs. If you enjoy this chat, make sure you subscribe. We put out 2 episodes every week with great bands and artists who have the stories to go with it. 101 Part-Time Jobs. Do you think guitars have songs in them?
Yeah, 100%. I've had that.
Don't fucking ask
on
me.
On our new album,
Yeah.
there's a song called Big Star, which was written on a guitar that the lads got me for my 30th, which is like a really nice vintage Epiphone guitar.
That is so sweet that you got him a guitar for his 30th.
Do you know what? The one thing I really like about our band is we always buy each other presents every birthday.
That's nice.
Even
And 30th
if
was a big one.
even if it's just a voucher. Do you know what, you're 30. We've got Noel Gallagher signed an acoustic for you once.
Yeah.
I sorted that out.
Do you know, it's good that you don't hate each other. Because you'd understand how people do get to hate each other.
Yeah. Do you know what, I think that, you might have unlocked the secret there to
Presents.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Get each other presents at Christmas and birthdays.
But going back to your question, I do think songs are hidden in instruments.
Yeah.
Not necessarily just guitars, like keyboards
because
as well.
you got a piano in your house, didn't you? And keeper
Yeah.
and all that.
You sit down and like you just go places that you didn't expect to go.
Yeah, because your hands will tend to fall in the same places on certain instruments, I think. And even just changing the sound on an instrument then makes you hear that chord differently. I know that's going to sound weird and a bit like... But I've been like that from the start, really. Like,
So what about, when...
back in the day, I used like... I remember when I first started writing songs for Blossoms and stuff, I'd write on the acoustic like you would just in your bedroom or back room. And then I brought the Casio keyboard that I learnt like from when I was like 12 downstairs, and it's got like 100 inbuilt sounds.
You've kicked that keyboard.
And then I wrote Charlemagne on that.
You
Do know what I
kicked
mean?
that keyboard at me once.
I did when we were playing FIFA.
I beat you.
You wrote Charlemagne on that?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
And the guitar. So often I'll write with a guitar and a keyboard. So I'm kind of flitting between the two, if you know what I mean.
What I find mad, sorry to interject, but I find mad because I remember when we got that guitar from James, the acoustic.
Oh, the other one.
The
You're talking
Gibson
about now,
acoustic. Yeah, the other one. You wrote Blown Rose on that.
Yeah.
Now, James tried to write on that tune before. Do you think
On
that
that
Jay
guitar?
just... Yeah, sorry. Do you think Jay just couldn't get that song?
No, he's probably...
I feel like I'm interviewing you now, so I'm liking this.
Please do.
I don't know, maybe, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, I guess the neck of a guitar, that is always going to be quite particular to the shape of your hands. That's got to be something about it.
Yeah.
And like the way it feels with you.
100%.
I know, I'm not like a great guitarist, but I can feel like a great guitarist with the right guitar.
Yeah, and they put and different sounds they make, I think, more so. Less so the way it feels, maybe. It's what you're plugging it into. Like that electric you got me. It's kind of got like a gnarly sound to it.
Yeah,
so it makes you play.
There's something about some of the pots are like the opposite way around and stuff.
Yeah,
like
it's
that,
just kind of got like a
vibe.
fucked old sound.
Yeah,
so
it's
that's
mint.
kind of where that song Big Star came from. I would never have wrote that on like an acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
I learned a bar chord the other day. I'm really still.
Come
I say
on.
the other day, right? It's probably been saying that for like 2 years now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an interesting point because your job's up to play music.
Yeah.
You're songwriters. That's at like the core of everything you do. Do you sit down and like that's the thing? You can't help but take the piss out of it. The idea of
Songwriter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
You probably throw me under a bus.
Sorry.
But
Yeah, no,
picking up a guitar and knowing that's like the thing that you do, that you spend that's what you get paid for. That's what we know you for. Has that changed your relationship with instruments over the years?
Well, I think first of all, I've never picked up a guitar and gone, I'm going to write a tune, obviously, because Tom writes the tunes. But I have sat back. I'm really conscious. I've got ADHD 100%. I'm not diagnosed, but 100% got it. I'm terrified of sitting behind a kit one day and being bored of sitting behind a drum kit. Do you know what I mean? 'Cause when I get bored of something, that's
It's
it.
exciting to you still.
Yeah, now when I sit behind a kit and we're in the room, I buzz off it and I'm like, I can't wait to rehearse or I can't wait to do this or that.
Even if you're playing the song that you've played 50.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Charlemagne
before.
doesn't matter. I could still buzz off it and play it and have good fun doing it.
That's cool.
But I'm also terrified of that becoming really boring. Do you know what I mean? And like, because when things become boring, so I have a big effort to every time I sit behind a kit, it's because I have to sit. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't go home, get the drum kit out, and start just like noodling, even if I wanted to. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I might start a bit, and I don't really do that in the rehearsal room. But I think mainly I don't do that in the rehearsal room because it's annoying for everyone
Drums
else.
are loud, aren't they? So everyone's always like,
Is that like these
just wait.
How many memes is there? Do you know what I mean? Where like all guitarists are going meh 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 meh, and the drummer goes poof. It's like, oh god, it's so loud. It's like, shut up. But it is interesting. I think the loudest in our room is Josh, 100%.
Well,
His guitars are so loud, and then
Charlie's bass is loud
I play something, and everyone's like, "Oh, shut up with that." It's like,
And you'll come to the practice room, Tom, and it'll be like, this is the skeleton of a tune.
Yeah. This is Often I'll send them a voice. I put them into my voice notes as I'm writing them, and if it's something I think's good, I'll send it to them beforehand on like, just on like iMessage on the group chat.
And like some of these tunes go back. You were saying the Perfect Me, you wrote that a couple of years ago.
No, Perfect Me we actually weirdly kind of wrote that together in the rehearsal room.
yeah, that was like one of the only. That happens every now and then.
Yeah,
it's very, rare,
rare.
but it does
So
happen.
it sounds like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's like an energy to it, which was like...
It's immediate.
Yeah, that was kind of just us reacting, and then I went away and then wrote the words to it. But the music and everything was kind of written together around this like keyboard that Josh was messing around with. But often, that's not the way it would be done. I'd write it at home, then send the voice memo, and then often I've kind of got like influences of what I've been listening to, or I've put a beat behind it, just so I've got something to jam off. And often I'll write over a beat as well. So then I'll be like, oh, this is kind of what I'm hearing, and then make it your own kind of thing.
It's quite an adult relationship thing, I think, to know your place in a band.
Yeah.
And to know your role, and to bring yourself to it.
I sorted the pensions out, do you know what I mean? So
because they're all like it's all self-defined stuff.
Do you know what? I feel like it's... And especially how long we've been a band for like over 10 years. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you just know... I don't know. You know the dynamic.
Leave egos behind, don't you? As well, it's 100%. Not, you can't come into it.
Like I know, I just wouldn't write a tune. I just know I just don't have that talent. Do you know what I mean?
I think
Tom is talented in that way.
I think everyone has the bands set up different ways. Like
100%.
Like I split everything, like in terms of songwriting,
in terms of credits.
Yeah. The money. Yeah.
The publishing.
If we're going, we might as well talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk open.
If you're up for it,
it's well nicer. Yeah,
because a lot of people. Well, I don't know because I don't speak to that many people in bands, but I know they don't. Do you know what I mean? I know.
Yeah.
It's not a done thing, if you know what I mean, because arguably you do more, don't you? Because you're writing the songs. Do you know what I mean? But from the start, I was like, no, it's the band. We're in it together. I'm splitting it. Like all the bands I looked up to who lasted the longest seem to be doing that. I think
Foo Fighters. Dave Grohl does that, doesn't he?
Yeah, Coldplay, U2. They were like kind of bit. I don't know, from being a 19-year-old lad who wrote songs, looking at these other acts, I was like, I'm not doing this to like make loads of money or anything like that. It was kind of like, we're in it together. Do you know what I mean? So that, I think, going back to them when you're writing songs, no one's going, oh, well, I'm not going to get fucking 14% of this because, do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter what part you've come up with. Everything's the same.
I think that's helped.
That helps. I
think that helps creatively in other ways. Like you were saying, then sometimes we're sat in the room doing Perfect Me, for example. Do you know what I mean? Every now and then someone would be like, Tom might come to us and go, I'm struggling with just this tiny bit here. Then I've got a lyric. Do you know what I mean? For example, like Charlie came with a pilot light thing. Do you know what I mean? Every now and then. And I think that being stripped away from it helps creativity. Do you know what I mean? Because if you're thinking that isn't there, you could be trying to crowbar stuff in, or then Tom being like, I don't want to ask them because it's just a wit.
You can see how people would want to do things because they're like, I need to make my impression on this. I need to make my 25% worth it.
Yeah, like, I can't imagine working like that because we've never done it. So we're just, luckily, we're like over communicate and anything go. And do you know what I mean? Put your idea on, but if it doesn't serve the song, we just move on. Or if I've come with like 95% of it, like, mapped out in my head, and I'm like, this is how it should go, like, or I've wrote this over this drum machine drum beat, and you're like, and I'm like, but it needs that beat. Do you know what I mean? You're like, yeah, cool, like whatever suits the song. Like, there's no egos left behind. I think in doing that, you take that awkwardness away. I think
over communicating. I mean, you kind of brush over it then, but you need that, and like we don't forget that we're like young men.
Yeah, it's a fucking problem.
Not the best at communicating.
No, 100%. Yeah,
and we can still improve. I think we're still learning. Like 10 years in, do you know what I mean? There's
100%.
still moments where we're like, oh, we could have done that better or whatever. But on the whole, as far as like you said, a group of lads who are friends go, like we are pretty good together.
Do you know what's been good for that? Like we do a weekly podcast as well.
Yeah,
and we talk about what we've done that weekend, which I know is like the smallest thing, but. Do you know what I mean? It's like that stereotype of like when you get back home and she go and like Sophia, my other half, she'll sort of say, "Oh, how's that such a body?" And you're like, "I didn't ask." Do you know what I mean? Because you don't. And it's weird, isn't it? And it's very like stereotypical for like us to do that. You sort of just like talk about the then and there. You don't really go, "I had a great weekend," and I'm feeling a bit down today, or I'm feeling a bit. Do you know what I mean? You just don't say it. No,
I've been trying to add that in and like actually say how I feel, even if it's awkward, because I think it's for the best.
100%. No, it is. It is for the best.
Now more than ever, like we're isolated and like obviously there's the COVID thing, but the way we're all scrolling and we all feel like a need to tell our lives as an individual narrative.
Yeah. But like also a controlled narrative of like, I'm posting this because I like this going out. Do you know what I mean? Like you're never going to post, are you going, today I felt horrible and I didn't get out of bed till like 11 o'clock. Do you know what I mean? Like you're just not going to post that stuff. And it's like, and the reality is everyone goes through them days where they're like, I didn't feel that great today. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's just facts.
Big time. And I think that's what a lot of people get from gigs and music.
100%.
Is that you get this shared range of emotions.
Yeah.
And I think when you can go to a gig and you can feel lonely that week or that year, or, you know, you feel stoked because you're with your friends, I think that's the value of music.
Yeah. I also think that music and songs have something to sort of, I don't know, something to drape over whatever feeling you're feeling. Do you know what I mean? Like, say that time where you do wake up and, I mean, it's 11 o'clock and you feel a bit guilty about it. There's always a song to put on that'll either take you out of that mood. Sometimes you just want to be in that mood for a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's nothing bad about just wanting to feel a bit like that sometimes. Like, wanting to feel a bit sad. Put a song on it. Like, do you know what I mean?
Who are yours for that? Mine's like Death Cab for Cutie.
Right, okay. Yeah.
Classic.
That's like my other half, Sophia's like, loves Death Cab for Cutie. It's not my vibe, really. I'm weird. I have like really nostalgic songs that like my grand's favourite song. Do you know what I mean? Like a bit of Neil Diamond or something. I'll put on and like have a little cry to. Do you know what I mean? And stuff like that. And I love listening to like old songs like that. And then even songs that like as a band, sometimes I listen to our own music because I remember a time. Do you know what I mean? Like,
that's funny.
I did that recently. I never ever do that. But I was like, we were picking a set list for this big gig we've got coming up. So then I was like, I'm just going to listen to our old each album. And it was weird, it's nostalgic, and you start remembering where you were at that time. Or for me personally, like when I wrote the song, I'm like, oh God, remember.
Is it a good feeling?
Yeah, it's nostalgic, isn't it? I suppose you kind of, they take on new meanings. I kind of was like, I forgot that's what I wrote it about, because you sing it every night and you're like, it becomes like a new thing. Whereas then when you listen to the record version, you kind of like,
almost becomes
it like snaps you back to like what you were like wearing then and what you were doing, the places you were hanging out.
Skinny
like
jeans.
Yeah, so it's nice to dip into nostalgia every now and then, because I feel like doing what we do, you don't really, on me personally, I don't tend to look back creatively. Do you know what I mean? It's always like look forward and don't look backwards.
I think this has been a big thing in the band for us recently, because we've always said as well, like the biggest thing for us is like longevity. Do you know what I mean? Like, you listen to our first interviews, we've always said like the big, and I don't think we're there yet, but still, do you know what I mean? 10 years, 5 albums, do you know what I mean? That's pretty long. Do you know what I mean? In terms of like longevity. So like, I feel like we know how lucky we are, but then also it's a good time.
You got to savour the moments, aren't you?
Yeah,
100%. It's easy when your life becomes a bit crazy to just look forward. You don't like, when you're doing these like big gigs, you don't like take it in at the time, and then only afterwards you go, I should have like savoured that a bit more or something. But I'm trying to actively get better at that.
From a fan's point of view, you seem so good at enjoying the moment, and you see, you're fun, you're bubbly, you know, and that's people live vicariously through that, through the podcast.
Yeah,
the podcast. Filmed here, started here.
Do you know what?
No, we lied.
Yeah, we did. We came here for a photo shoot and then did it at our rehearsal.
We never did it.
We never did it.
We've never actually done one in here. This is the first one I've done, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
That's brilliant.
But I think that was more because, well, it's just easier, wasn't it? But yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I think the big thing with the podcast, and like you were saying there, like, because we were sort of like, oh, do you know what? As a band, I'd love it if my favourite band did this. Do you know what I mean? Like,
big time.
I'm like a massive Arctic Monkeys fan, Oasis fan. And I used to like scour the internet for like interviews of Oasis or Arctic Monkeys and stuff, and anything that you thought other people hadn't seen as much, you were buzzing off. You couldn't wait to
YouTube was
tell.
a great thing.
Oh, it was mint one. Matt Elders, do you remember the tour dives you used to do? Unbelievable. A View From. I used to absolutely love it. Do you know what I mean? Like, and you just buzz off anything like that, anything to get like your little claws on that other bands weren't doing, and you couldn't understand.
We've
why
probably overshared now. They're probably like,
well, that's
shut Blossoms up, fuck's sake.
Well, I wonder if loads of bands have that kind of thinking, like how much do we share on socials? How do we know what to share?
I think we're in the era of oversharing, aren't we? In terms of, because everything's so immediate and like there, like this doesn't seem to be a cap on what you could share. Like if it was like,
you could do selfies all day long.
Yeah, or just like day in the life and all that. Like it is like. I'm interested in both sides of it, me personally, because I'm like, it is good to give people a lot, but then parties like, but should you hold a little bit back for yourself?
This is what I was going to say. I think the beauty in the position we're in is that we're not like that famous in terms of like where people are like actively knowing where you are. Do you know what I mean? Like, I saw a video the other day of Will Smith walking through Zurich, and he was like talking about how he never gets to do this, and this is so alien to him. And he's like 5 a.m. because his plane was delayed or something. Do you know what I mean? Like mad stuff like that, and you're like, oh god, yeah, it's weird that like he actually probably hasn't walked through a city, just taking it in for years because he's that level of fame. And I was like, it's weird that in the way we do it, obviously we're not famous like that, but we are out there, but we control everything that's out there. Do you know what I mean? So like we could turn around tomorrow and go, let's have a year off, and we won't put a podcast out and we'll put a thing, and it'd just be so easy to just turn it off.
Would you be worried that people would forget about Blossoms?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there is always that in the back of your mind, isn't there? You just think, what's around the corner? Or what if...
I look at like people like Sam Fender, like this week, where he's like just sort of come back and done a gig and sort of played new tunes, and I'm just like, oh, God, I bet he didn't sit there every night thinking. But he's huge, isn't he? He's a massive artist, so it's like, you don't have that. I think for us, it's like when you're in the eye of it, sometimes you don't really realise, oh, do you know what, yeah, we are actually... Do you know what I mean? I've done well. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's weird, like we always have this sort of terrified of just being like sort of forgotten about and left behind. And I think being a band as well, when
comparing
like,
as well as you try not to compare. And I don't. I've kind of got over it now. You like, but you do. You're on that treadmill, aren't you? Like, have we got on this playlist? Have you got this? Like, there's always something to compare to. But at the end of the day, you just got to like stop thinking about it. Do you know what I mean?
There
Drive
are
you mad.
sometimes when things are going well that you feel like, oh yeah, I've kind of got that one over that person I compared myself to. That's just as bad.
Yeah, of course.
That's no good either. Like none of that stuff's good.
No, is it for?
It's like
you're swallowing the poison.
Yeah,
100%.
And it's weird, isn't it? Because
or even just beating yourself up, like not even doing like the other side of it, where you're like, oh, we've not got this, or do you know what I mean? Are we gonna get this, or what about that? And you're like, you can't predict the future. You just gotta write songs, put them out. See
you get
happens.
what you get, and you don't get upset.
Very true.
Living around this area, we just went to the Alma Lodge Hotel where a few of you worked, and we mentioned this earlier just before we started recording, but sticking around this area and like knowing your home and having your each own houses and apartments, that's nice to stay around where you grew up.
Funny because you're done, aren't you?
No, I'm not done. I think when you do stuff like this, it then amplifies, oh, I have lived here all my life. So then it makes me go, I want something different. Do you know what I mean? At some point, I'm like, I don't think I will stay.
Yeah.
Live like, because it's kind of, like you drive past, like, oh, that's where I went to high school. This is where I had my first job. Okay, we're still walking the same streets. Like, even most people go traveling, or I know we've travelled with the band, which is different. But to just like go and live somewhere else, I do have that in me. I think
yearning.
I've got that yearning. Do you know what I mean? So it's a double-edged sword, is what I'm saying. Like there is something really nice and cozy about still being here, if you know what I mean.
You got to go somewhere and not enjoy it, and then come back.
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
it's like we sort of breed, because you mentioned it before to me. You was like, oh, I had that thing where I wanted to go away, and then I went away and was like, oh, I'll be back at home now. Do you know what I mean?
It's the thing of not knowing, isn't it? Like, if
grass is always green on the other side.
But you might like it, and you might go, oh, this is for me.
Yeah,
I'm a big believer in like villages and like the way that we used to be like centuries and thousands of years ago. I think that's still in us, you know, that like we live in a place and it takes a village to raise a child, and we know what we know, and we go off, but then we come back.
Yeah, you know
what? Home. I do believe in homes.
I'm very much like, I don't know. There's something about it, isn't there? Do you know what I mean? And there's something about going away and traveling and things like that, but I don't think that necessarily means living somewhere. Do you know what I mean? I think you can travel and stuff like that, but I don't know.
I think it takes a long time as well. Like I grew up in the suburbs, northwest London. Now I live southeast London, and same city, but it took me 10 years to find another place in London that I actually enjoy. Yeah. It takes a long time, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think the other thing, I think it's just completely down to personality as well, isn't it? Weirdly.
Yeah, I think it's a personality thing. Like, mine's probably just from a thing of not wanting to sit still. Like, even as like a songwriter, you're always trying to like find the next thing, and you don't want to just accept that's what it is. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe I'm just a bit like that.
There's a lot to think about.
Yeah, no, it's weird, isn't it? It is.
But you don't tend to. I don't walk around thinking like I'm happy. I wouldn't live here if I didn't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but then it's when we do stuff like this, and you're kind of reminded that I've been here all my life.
Jobs! There's a great line on the new record where you're saying, wider now do I sweat the small stuff. I'm kind of paraphrasing, but now I'm letting the little things get to my head.
Oh yeah, it's in What Can I Say?
Yeah.
Why do all the simple things now seem to fill my head with doubt? Is that, yeah, that's probably the bit.
Excuse me.
No, yeah, I knew which one you meant. I was like, which one is it?
Is that something that comes with age? Why do I let the small things?
Yeah, for me personally. I was saying this.
I think for everyone, yeah.
Yeah. As well, yeah, people, I don't know. Everyone's got a slightly different lived experience, haven't they, and stuff. I feel like I was more fearless when I was like 21. Because you got nothing to compare.
Do you know what I think?
Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what I think that weirdly as well? Do you know what I think that? I think that's proper elevated in what we do, because I don't know. Say if you're in like a job where you're not putting something out there for people to judge. Do you know what I mean? You're just sort of going through the grind. Whereas like when we're putting stuff like the first album, for example, we talked about the other day. It's weird, like, not to think that there was a time before we had an album out, but then all of a sudden you're putting this album out and you judge straight away. It's not like people go, do you know what I mean? People didn't let you know. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is good or this is shit.
There's kind of no self-doubt going into that first album, really.
I'd say even the second one, really.
Well, I speak for yourself. I had loads of self-doubt.
No, but
I was like, the first one, I remember not being like, oh, what are people going to review about it or anything. I was just like, we've made a fucking boss first album. And we were just so like, self-belief was the thing. And then once you get the success, then you go, woof, you got to do that again now. And then I just was like freaked out. Do you know what I mean? So it kind of, I think from the first album onwards for me, it was just tipping and tipping and tipping in terms of like confidence and self-doubt.
How do you deal with that?
No, he said not very well.
Joel,
That's it.
no, to be fair, yeah.
No, you do. No, Tom's weird though, because Tom, without any pressure, I don't think like you like that now, but like without any, you thrive under pressure, even though you don't think you do.
No, I don't. A little
maybe
bit.
You know you do know, yeah. But like, I think too much gets too much. But then if there's no pressure, it's like it's all right. It's like you're a very chilled person.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's why you married my sister. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
She's
I'm chilled in some aspects.
Yeah, but I'd say naturally you're a chilled.
Yeah,
person.
laid back.
Yeah, you're just like you're not one of them people that like would like really fret about something.
No, I'm not highly strung in that.
No.
Do you see it for what it is? Like, I think lots of people can get lost in like OCD stuff, or maybe it's like. When you're like tapping you think something's lucky, it's superstitious.
Yeah, I'm not superstitious.
You don't get lost in any of that stuff?
No, but I get more like my own thought process. I go to like the worst case scenario.
You're quite negative,
and I've struggled to like flip out of that and rationalise like what's going on, if you know what I mean.
And be reasonable.
Yeah, like early gigs and stuff, Tom would be like, oh, it's raining, no one's going to come. Because the rain had like put people off getting out of the house. And I'd be like, that's mental, they've bought tickets to come. Like,
there are so many, like the greats. Springsteen still pukes up out of fear before each concert.
Really?
Like Prince.
Think by that. That's like, oh, fuck off, Springsteen. Do you know what I mean? Like, you fucking sound. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've smashed it. You can do 3 hours and no one complains about it being too long. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've absolutely nailed it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's weird, isn't it, when you hear that? Because you are like, God. Like, to think of them people who are like up here. Like Springsteen, like, coming from like a band, a musician, like, people like that, Prince, Springsteen, they're like, the gods, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? They're people that you go, you can't get any bigger than them.
They could stop touring and then just like everything's fine.
Springsteen could like, he could just not do another gig ever again and still be like really current and still be spoken about.
That's a good point, actually. Making money, touring is the one still, is it?
Yeah. It's we speak about like briefly before, like these still really good bands who do really good gigs, but can't make it work as their job. I
just learnt that if you can play a 2,000 cap venue across the UK, maybe a few of them are sort of 500s, then that doesn't necessarily mean you're coming home with enough to pay rent for a couple of months.
Yeah. Like
that's mad.
Yeah, it's mental, and it's mental because like, and then it's like, well, everything's gone up, but ticket prices sort of haven't. But then they have for like huge artists, but then the smaller artists they haven't, but everything else gone up. And then you got other things like venues taking like merch sales and stuff like that, which is just like completely out of order.
So how do you reconcile with that? As a band like Blossoms, who are a successful band, you've had a few number one albums, probably looking forward to another one.
Hopefully, yeah.
How do you reconcile with that, knowing that you can play to loads and loads of people, sell loads and loads of records, but still like have to be smart to make sure you can pay yourself?
I think the main thing is being in it and immersing yourself in it. Do you know what I mean? Like we sit there a lot and talk about every single step of each thing. Do you know what I mean? Whether this is too much money or whether this is, and our management are amazing at that. Do you know what I mean? And then
what, as in like, is that massive gorilla? Is that going to be worth it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? And little things like, and then even like when you're touring there or here, that are like the stage show, for example, like, oh, that's like really expensive to do that. What can you do with that? Can you use that for a few years?
You were involved in that day to day.
Everything. Like literally, I'd say there's not really one step of the process that we're not involved in. Like, and we're very hands on as a band.
And that's music today. That's bands today.
Yeah, I feel like that's it now. You can't. That's just the facts of it. You can't just be a band anymore and just be like, we just make music and that's all we think about.
In one way, that's like awesome to hear, because it's like great. You know, when you go see a show, you know that the band, the singer, the drummer, bassist, whoever, they've had a hand in making this an experience for me. And I feel
I don't think every band's like that though.
No, I don't.
I think we're probably the anomaly.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I speak to some, like my brother, who's a photographer. He works with a lot of bands. And he's like, they're not all like you, you know.
And they'll pay other people to do this sort of stuff.
Yeah, and I think...
and that's fair enough for that, like, because I do think we're the group, the dynamic of people, we've got, like... Maybe because we're a little bit old, but we all pull in different ways, do you know what I mean? Like, Joe was joking before saying he'll sort more of, like, that kind of shit out.
Yeah.
And someone else will sort something else out. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's, like, kind of pulling the weight, but...
Teamwork.
I think a lot of... it's hard to. I don't know fully because I'm not like sat with them and grilled them on like what do you do day to day. But yeah, we're kind of
that's like a concept for a podcast in itself, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? In the workings of bands.
I quite like when I grew up. I was obsessed with skateboarding, still am. But when I was younger, I really wanted to run a skate shop, and I didn't know why. I couldn't articulate why. But I always knew, like, there would still be admin, there'd still be stuff, but there's love that goes into the admin. Because you're doing it for a reason. You're not doing it to make someone else money.
Yeah.
I think that's it for me. That's the joy that I find in indie stuff.
I'm very much the same. Like, I remember when Tom first started writing tunes in his first band, I was like, I'd love to be your manager. Do you know what I mean? And I'd like try and book your gigs and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, and do all that other stuff. I was like, and then if one that I was like, oh, I'm going to try and learn how to record something. Do you know what I mean? Like, I like that other side of it just as much as the good side of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
And I think, I don't know.
Like you say, like if this band hypothetically just stopped tomorrow, Joe wouldn't be a drummer in another band. He'd probably stay in music and like, he could like manage people and do that kind of shit, but he wouldn't play drums with someone. Do you know what I mean?
No, I like being in a band and being in a band with mates. Like, I'm quite like purist in terms of like, I like being. I don't know. I like the fact that we were all mates before music. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's sort of this thing was like natural, and it like I didn't sit down and like learn my craft. Like, there's some amazing drummer. It's the polar opposite. Do you know what I mean? The first time I went in the studio and they're like, "Here's a click," I was like, "What the fuck am I doing?" Do you know what I mean? I remember him saying like, "What's the bass drum pattern?" You're playing two different things. I was like, "I don't fucking know." Do you know what I mean? Like, I just sit there with my mates.
It's pure.
Yeah, I just sit there with my mates and have a really nice time. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and I fucking quickly had to learn. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I don't know. There's something about that I wouldn't change for the world. Do you know what I mean? Like, and sometimes I fucking wish I could. Do you know what I mean? I wish I was that drummer who was like Steve White and just like smashing.
I think when you're doing something that comes from a good place, you can't fail.
Yeah,
not really. Like your band, no one could go see your band. No one will buy the record that you spent thousands of pounds trying to press on vinyl. That still doesn't mean you failed, because if it comes from a real good place,
exactly. I think that's the crux of everything is you got to be just true to yourself, and you trust your gut. That's what I've learned now. The minute you start second guessing and trying to bend to fit something you think is going to be right or successful, like you've just got to.
It's weird doing
follow your own gut,
because even that in itself has like its hardness and like its difficult decisions. Like, for example, Perfect Me wasn't going to make the album, and we were like, oh, it felt like we'd done it before. Do you know what I mean? It felt like a tune that we'd like, but then we were a bit like, oh,
sounded like a Blossom song.
Yeah, and weirdly, I don't know, when you're in it, sometimes that's boring. You don't want to sound like Blossom.
Yeah.
But then I don't know. Sometimes then you go, oh shit, people actually do want to hear Blossom. So it's like this fine line, isn't it? Of like not sounding like your last record, but then also not going too far, but then you want to push it a bit as well.
We all know bands who've gone too far.
Yeah,
and you're like, damn,
it's hard, isn't it? Like and I think that's like one of the hardest sort of like tightropes to walk. That like idea of going sort of toppling too far into like that.
It's funny on this new record. There is the line of like disco.
Oh yeah,
and you're so on it, but you're not quite over it. It sounds great. It's got a bit of Tame Impala in it, I think.
Yeah,
take that every day
because it's got the moogie. It's a bit sexy, and it's kind of like, oh yeah, it's a bit spicy.
Yeah,
and like you dig it, groove. It's a good morning record. My girlfriend got back last night at 2 a.m. pissed. Like smell of alcohol. Good on her. She had a great night.
Yeah.
But I had an early night because I had the 6 a.m., 7 a.m. train this morning.
Yeah.
But I listened to it this morning and I was like, I felt really awful inside. But listening to the record, I was like, I feel quite good actually.
That's revitalised me.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's always weird when you hear other people's like, you know, like your take on it. 'Cause it's like, I don't know, sometimes when you're in it, you're a bit like, oh. Like these tunes that we really buzz off on that album. But then,
Which are your favourites?
I Like Your Look is definitely a band favourite.
Yeah, I like Nightclub and I Like Your Look.
Yeah.
And Big Star.
Nightclub's great. That line about waiting half a mile down the line, you get in there and you're sort of you're sober. You sober up outside. That's such a relatable line.
Yeah, yeah.
Sober in the cold.
Yeah. I'm outside, yeah. Outside sober, just getting colder.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just reminds me of being in them, like 42s in Manchester, you know, like trying to get in to that club and swapping wristbands and... Yeah, I like that tune. I like the lyrics on it. There's a playful element to it.
It's funny because
you know
everyone else in the queue is trying to jump the queue.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But like everyone's trying to get in faster.
Do you go out? Are you going out kind of people? I mean, we talked about how much there is to do being in a band. It doesn't leave much room for getting smashed all the time, does
I think
it?
it depends. Like, I stopped drinking for a while this year. I did like from the start of the year till Glastonbury, 6 months like straight, and it was good.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But up until then, we'd go out and stuff after gigs. Not out into like clubs and shit. Depends where you are. Obviously in Manchester, you can't really.
You feel if you're finishing a shift, you want a couple of beers.
Yeah,
afterwards.
we'd have it in like the dressing room, and then we'd take it onto the tour bus and stuff. So we do.
Yeah,
we do like it.
Do you know what, I just think it's a vibe, innit? I think that's the best thing about it. Like,
depends what zone everyone's in. I
it's
feel
not
like
every
this.
night, yeah.
Everyone's kind of each tour's different. You know what I mean? Like the last tour were like the two just after COVID. And everyone was just like, we're getting fucked here. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, we've stayed in. And every night was... Well, everyone... You were maybe less so, but...
Yeah, I was
little groups within the band, you know, like me, Miles and Josh stayed up till like 3 a.m. just listening to Bob Marley. Like, that was the vibe. That was that tour. Do you know what I mean? Whereas this tour, we're entering like a more healthier vibe. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's been like exercising. Like, a few of us haven't been drinking. Like,
maybe
it feels like we're entering our like...
Maybe this tour
yoga tour or something. Do you know what I mean?
Maybe this tour I'll be the opposite though.
Yeah, you'll just go mad.
I'll go.
And that's the thing. You're late 20s, early 30s.
Early 30s now.
Early 30s. That's the other thing, innit?
Exactly. Yeah.
You just feel like you can't. And the other thing is, well, when you've been around that much, like I feel like when you're a younger band, you're doing them like slightly smaller gigs, but like you can sort of get away with it. Like it's like fresh.
A bit more invincible, aren't you?
Yeah, but whereas now it's like I feel like when you get older, you're a bit like, I want to put a really good show on.
Yeah.
I want people to come away from our bangers instead of being like, oh, I saw Blossoms last night. It was really. I want people to like, that was one of the best fucking gigs I've ever seen at that place. Do you know what I mean? It's like your sort of perspective changes where, like you were saying back then, you feel invincible and you're a bit like.
It's all part of like the rogueness is what kind of makes you like you're drinking before you go on stage because you're a bit nervous and you haven't like figured it out yet, but that's what makes it good. And then you get bigger and you got more eyes on you and you're like watching videos back and you're like, oh, I didn't sound that good there. Like, so then you stop drinking before the gig and then you're thinking about, you know what I mean? There's like levels, I think that
it seems to me that's like an exciting thing that it's always changing.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely. It doesn't feel like the same.
No.
We're always wanting to evolve the show and do different things. And
this is probably the furthest we've gone. This show, like the Women's Show one, and then the other things that will be coming is like, it seems like the furthest we've pushed that in terms of like how much is spoke about, whether it be like segues or like little tiny bits in songs. Like, this is probably the furthest we pushed it out and the most we've ever.
Production, like
you're
talking between songs.
Yeah, and just like timing it and making it like flow really well. And
which I think we're like, I watch even some bands who like headline festivals and I'm like, we're so much better in like putting a show together. Do you know what I mean? Like our shows are really seamless and like everyone always mentions it afterwards, like, God, you've put on like a really good show. Do you know what I mean? You don't sort of sit there and then in between songs like, you know what I mean, checking stuff like, do you know what I mean? It's not, it's always like slick. I think people now are sort of going, oh, I don't want to go to that because it wasn't worth it. Do you know what I mean? Like, whereas you come away and go, oh fucking hell, that was actually. I don't know, if you know someone's putting more time and more effort, that's more value for money, surely. Do you know what I mean? So like, people are now getting on that a bit more, I think. And
I think there's enough of stuff out there when you look at your screens and people don't really care and they just throw stuff at the wall. That it is really nice when you see something that's really been curated well.
Yeah, we definitely do that and kind of care about it.
there's one thing that really annoys me at the moment is like just massive screen behind every band. I'm just like, I'm done with it. Do you know
What
what
have
I
you
mean?
got?
We just got a completely different vibe at the moment. Like, we've going new. We've got like a huge backdrop, like draping things, and everything's going to be like the album cover. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and it's all going to be like seamlessly intertwined. Whereas like, I just feel like, do you know when people just put a big screen up, and yeah, it's good, but I feel like I can't think of a big gig that I've been to that doesn't involve a big screen.
Yeah.
Every single person just puts a big screen up.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And like,
It's a bit of a trend thing. Maybe it's like Brat is like right in the middle of that. That kind of feels that
that's
cover.
like anti it. Like I saw like footage from her LA show where she had a kabuki drop, but it like the opposite, where it dropped down, it said Brat on it, and she went in front of it and just had it the whole gig. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
and
like-
that was it. It was like the opposite of usually that drops
Opposite
down
of
there
screen,
behind it.
yeah.
It's like, do you know what I mean? I was a bit like, that's fucking well better than just like coming out and going, here's the screen, here's like
Yeah.
the band, and then oh my god, the screen footage has got a filter on it. Do you know what I mean? It's changed slightly. Like it's like dropped and dragged from like a Mac. Do you know what I mean? I'm a bit like, I get it, and it's like thingy, but I'm just done with it.
I wonder if it's almost a case of like, what's new? What can we do that's like refreshing?
Yeah.
That people will remember in that way.
I suppose we're almost taking it back.
Old school.
Yeah, do you know
I
what
saw
I mean?
Pearl Jam once and they had absolutely no production, but they didn't have a backdrop and it was in the O2 and you just saw empty seats behind them. Just didn't, it sort of took the sting out of it.
Yeah, it's like that's too far.
Yeah, you
something.
see, that's right, and that's the weird thing in it, because there's a fine line as well, before like going too far with it like that, and then also just going like where it's just like you just sort of throw it out because everyone else is doing it. Because that's the other thing I don't like. I hate it when everyone just sort of it's almost like forming a line behind a screen rental company. Do you know what I mean? And just like, we're next.
Doing the same
it's just
thing.
like,
Yeah.
I don't know, just a bit like.
Like 101 part-time jobs. It started because I was interviewing a lot of bands. We talked about Magic Gang earlier.
Yeah.
Like they worked part-time jobs between tours. So many bands that we love work part-time jobs.
Yeah.
When you quit your jobs to do Blossoms full-time, did you know you were like, this is okay, we're not going to accept anything apart from this? And by the way, this was like a year after you officially formed, right?
Well, yeah, mine one's weird. I was like, when I worked at the Armour Lodge, I was like obviously doing the band, and then I really wanted to do tailoring, so I went round with my CV. Do you know what I mean? And like went round to all these
Tailoring?
Yeah,
Suit tailoring?
yeah, because I've always
What?
loved clothes and stuff. Yeah,
Come on, you're a clothes man.
Yeah,
Does anyone, how much do people know about this?
spoke
maybe
about
I've
it,
spoke
yeah.
about it, but not in depth really. But I got a job at a tailors, which we use a lot for our like show, which is cool. And then I got a job there and was an apprentice there. And one day I was driving into work and I heard, I think it was Clint Boone, like Drive Time on like Radio X it was at the time, play, it might have been Blow and Rose or Blow. I remember driving in going, I'm going to quit today. And I just walked in and went to the thing and was like, I'm leaving. And they were dead sound. They were like, is it the band? I was like, yeah. And they're like, oh, what? And I was like, yeah, see you later. And they're like, oh, you're leaving now? I was like, yeah. And just walked back out, drove home with like the best feeling ever. Got home, mum and dad were like, what are you doing? Do you know what I mean? And I was like, I remember mum being like, why are you home? Do you know what I mean? She was just about to go to work herself and she was like, why are you back already? I was like, I've quit. And mum and dad sat me down that night and was like, we'll sell you. I had like a little car, a little Fiat. And they're like, right, you sell that and that's what you'll live off. And we'll give you a year of no rent. And if literally, like, I think it was a week before the year was up, we got signed by Virgin, EMI. And that one, they were like, you fucking lucky bastard.
That's a good story.
It's weird, isn't it? And I don't know, but I feel like,
I think everyone has it slightly different as well. It depends what your parents are like.
yeah.
Like mine I had part-time jobs like at the Armour Lodge and stuff, but like you'd gone into, that was like
Yeah,
the
full-time-
apprentice
that
thing
was
was like
full-time work,
full-time
yeah.
work. Do you know what I mean? You'd go there every day. Whereas we'd started the band, Joe was doing that. Me and Miles still worked at the Armour Lodge part-time, and we were just like, do you know what I mean? We'd get like a couple of £100 a month.
Feels different, doesn't it?
Yeah, like, but my parents were never like, okay, what's your plan? You need to, I feel like knowing the families now, because I'm married to Joe's sister as well, if you didn't know.
Yeah.
So
Which is really nice.
yeah, could have gone terribly wrong, but it worked out all right.
Good still. I feel sorry for you.
But what I'm saying is like you have a different dynamic approach, don't you? So your family are very like, things are very logistically thought through, and it's like very, okay, well, if you're not doing this, let's see how it goes. Whereas mine were just like, they never said like, you've got to get a job and start doing this. They were just kind of like, oh, you're in the band, just muddling on, just see what happens. Do you know what I mean? It was never like, but equally I was never like, this is going to become a career either. Whereas Joe probably had more like work drive with it in terms of, this is what we need to do.
Yeah.
I was just like writing songs, that was like my thing.
I think
It's hard to explain.
Do you know what, though? I remember making conscious decisions though for it not to be like that, especially for like Tom, because I think as soon as you start thinking about it as a job, it's not fun, or it's not.
But I think something like Charlie in the band, he says he wanted to be in a band from being like 12. He said he remembers hearing Fleetwood Mac, Dreams, and going, I'm going to be a musician in a band. Whereas I never ever thought I was going to be a musician in a band. I was more into making films. That's what I wanted to do. So I thought on the side of making films, I just like writing songs. But then writing songs took over the filmmaking.
Do you think that gave you a certain amount of freedom? And actually it's the kind of freedom that people resonate with because it comes from a real place.
I think so, yeah. It was never like contrived or like I'm going to become successful or anything like that. Weird.
I think there's a weird thing with it though, because I think also the thing with that with you is that, like we said before, you're quite negative. Like I remember when we first started, you were like, well, it's not going to happen for us. I remember sitting outside our own rehearsal, or our old rehearsal at the scaffolding yard. Do you know what I mean? And we'd be like having chats about, oh God, like, and we'd be talking about these like, do you know what I mean? Like, what if we get a tour and what if we like do these gigs? And I remember you being like, it's not going to happen though, is it?
No, I mean,
it was only really when we're like,
it did feel different with this
yeah, no,
band.
it did.
It did. I don't think I was that negative about it because I was positive about our band. I was like, this band feels different. Do you know what I mean? But I was never like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I was never that guy.
There are loads of bands that are amazing that don't go anywhere.
Yeah, 100%. Like, there's no formula, is there? If there was a formula, do you know what I mean? It'd be easy to follow. But it's like, there's no. We were saying this day, like you know, you get that question, like, what advice you got for bands and stuff like that? It's like, well, what fucking advice can you give? Because I don't fucking know what happened either.
Pissing in the wind, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's like find people who are equally as like driven and want the same thing as you. Yeah. I think that's probably the overall like, that. But then it's weird, isn't it? Because then, like I said, I did that full-time job, and then maybe getting into full-time work and doing that. Like I remember getting to work some days, even though I loved it, still being like, I don't know how I got here. Do you know what I mean? Just being like, I don't remember that drive.
I think a lot of people have that. I think a lot of people our age have that.
Just that monotonous thing every day. I think that's probably the one thing that we have as a band is that we're not like we're all from working class. Do you know what I mean? Background, like, and the fact that we still sort of broke through, even to like the level that we broke through. Do you know what I mean? Like you said, like we had 3 number 1 albums. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not like I know these like bands and stuff, but like we've done. Do you know what I mean? You probably say we were saying this the other day, like. I don't know, like bands of that time, like there's not really that many who are like sort of on our level, which is mad. And I don't ever sit there and think about ourselves as like that big band. Do you know what I mean? But it's like, what makes it even like stranger is that, we've come from that background where it's like impossible. Yeah. Like Tom, because I remember you saying things like that, but I think it was more just in a sense of like, well, it's not, we're just like, it's a band from Stockport, it's not gonna happen. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've almost said like in school when it's like, I want to be in a band, your teacher go, shut the fuck up and learn maths because you're not going to be in a band. Do you know what I mean? It's like that thing, like it's not going to happen.
Where do you think it went right? If there was a moment or a conversation or maybe a period of a few months?
It was quite quick, I think, from starting the band. I think the catalyst was when Miles joined the band. So we started the band as a 4-piece, and then I was in a different band, and there was kind of like a weird break, not weird, but like I was like ending that band.
Like a breakup.
And then starting this band, do you know what I mean? So it was difficult, and you had to have that chat. And then Charlie was going to go on, and we'd started. It was me, Charlie, Joe and Josh, and we'd started it, and it felt good then, us 4. And we were like, we're going to get a keyboard player in. And then Charlie was going to go travelling in America on like one of them Camp America
yeah,
things.
My brother insisted that.
And then we had that summer, and we were like, we'll find a keyboard player like after the summer sort of thing. And then Charlie came back early from that. Then my first relationship broke up, and then Miles joined the band all within like a month. Yeah. So this is like August 2013. And then after that, it was like, right. Do you know what I mean? It just felt like that was it. Then once Miles joined and he fully added the sound to like another level, we were like, this is it now.
So all these things happen in a small amount of time. Do you reckon you knew at that time, you're like, something's different?
Yeah, different. I wouldn't say we're going to be like a massive band, but we were just like, we felt different. You had an extra spring in your step turning up to the gigs, and we kind of felt...
Well, you had a pride, didn't you?
Yeah, we backed ourselves, do you know what I mean? And we didn't like... Because we look back now and we're like, fucking hell, people must have thought we were just like... You know, some of the old videos and some of the old tunes and stuff, but you're like... There was a fearlessness in it, if you know what I mean, which just comes from being like that young and kind of just like... we backed ourselves. And then we got a manager like 6 months after that, who then opened the door to like...
booking agent.
Yeah, they got a booking agent at the same time. So management and booking agent came on the following summer, like May. And then after then, it was like, right, you've got a tour booked for September. And then you're supporting this band there. And then it just went like that then. And then it took another year to get a record deal because no one wanted to sign us for like a year. So it was kind of like there was a period when we had like the management and the booking agent, but no one still wanted to sign us. And we were a bit like, fucking hell,
what's wrong with
is
us?
this going to happen?
Well, it felt like a step back. It felt like everything was like huge strides forward. Like Tom said, like, sorry, I'm called your breakup a stride forward there, but do you know what I mean? Like, I felt like it was all, everything was like banging like miles, and the band, like, because we always said when we were as a 4-piece, like, we need a keyboard player to pad out, because we had this like Hammond organ, and sometimes Tom might get on it or Josh and do something.
I wrote
like,
a lot on them as well.
Yeah, and we were like, and at first it was literally just going to be someone to pad sound out. Do you know what I mean? And then obviously Miles came, and it became so much more than that. Do you know what I mean? Following lead riffs, and do you know what I mean? Sometimes, and it was like, oh god. And then I suppose the other thing which we forgot to mention with like Conrad and Charlie Myatt, they're like our management and booking, right, and Dave, it was like getting James Skelly, and then he sort of opened that door with like Simps. And do you know what I mean? We just didn't have the money for like Simps. Like, we had like Hammond organ, Miles got this like cool Nord. Do you know what I mean? But we didn't have like all these like access to these Simps.
I didn't even know what they were.
No, yeah.
It was inexperienced, and like I wouldn't have known listening to like them tunes from the 80s what they were.
Yeah.
You just take them for what it is, don't you, weirdly?
James Skelly, big part of your story.
100%. He kind of helped mould the sound in a way. So it was such an obvious thing. He just swapped out these 60s Hammond organs. He went, why don't you just play it on this? And then it just immediately sounded more like current and modern. And I think that's where you get, that's what a good producer does. They see.
So the one thing really,
the potential.
He was thinking, well, you, because I think when he met us, because we had these old sounds, he thought we were into like these like deep psychedelic
13th floor elevator,
60s bands. Yeah, like he was like, do you like Love and 13th Floor Elevators? I was like, I like Oasis. You know what I mean? It was like, oh, okay.
Duran.
So he got it then, and then he was like, okay, and he realised that we weren't just like an underground kind of garage rock band. It was like we were like aiming for bigger, if you know what I mean. So then he helped us mould that really, and we learned a lot from him.
That's what I mean. So it's weird that I feel like there's not like one set. Do you know what I mean? Like say Tom was right. We're talking about like the early bit where he had that breakup, which emotionally for him was big. So he started writing these songs.
Yeah, your songs have got more meaning than because before then you kind of like just learning.
Slumdog Millionaire.
Yeah,
it's weird. And then that's what. Yeah, it's like these like moments in time. Because then 6 months later we met our management and booking agent. But then again, there was maybe another year, and then we sort of sat down with Jay, and then that sound change, and then do you know what I mean? Then I don't know. It's weird. It's like there's so many, and that's why I think there's no method to it. And it's all sliding doors. Because then leave it another month and stuff, like our management might have come to might not.
Or if we'd have got signed earlier to say like a small independent,
which we
like because I remember
did.
like Heavenly, Jeff Barrett was like knocking around, and he was like, he came to watch us, and we were like, this is it, this is the big moment, because we were like looking up to like temples and stuff, and we were like, these are the coolest band, like that's what we want to do. And then he saw us, and Jeff Barrett was like, he was like, he's gonna be bigger than this kind of thing, and we didn't realise. We're like, well, he don't want to sign us, but weird time. And then it gave us and me more time to write basically, and I just wrote better.
What did he say again? He said,
better.
I can't remember what he said, but he sort of, like Tom said, he sort of said that you're bigger than Heavenly. I think it was one of the things.
Oh, you're not a Heavenly band.
You're not a Heavenly band, yeah. And I remember being like proper good, because like I say, Tom, like, look at temples. Do you know what I mean? I still love temples now. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's funny how we see that. We gauge things differently.
Yeah, and I remember thinking, I remember Miles and like, do you know what I mean? Because when he came and he said, "Oh, I love the gig, we'll be in touch." I remember us like we almost celebrated it. We almost like Miles like texts. He's got a funny story where like texts his mate saying like, "We've been signed." Do you know what I mean? We hadn't. We were just. Do you know what I mean? We were on like cloud nine. We played like Ruby Lounge in Manchester. Do you know what I mean? It was like sold out, and
fucking hell,
we had this like buzz around it. And do you know what I mean? We all thought it was like this was it. This was like the big break and stuff. And it's weird because like say he then got in touch. Was like, "Oh, maybe I'd do something publishing wise," but I think you're big, which it's fair enough on him, because I think, like you said, Tom, I think if we had that back in then, we might have
signed it and then never evolved to what we got to. Do you know what I mean? Whereas I just kept writing, and then we did a song called Blown Rose, and then Virgin were like, okay, we'll get involved with that. But it wasn't like an album deal. And then there was like, what's your next one after Blown Rose? And then I wrote Charlemagne, and then they just went, oh fuck it, we'll just offer you an album deal, and that changed it. Then.
You got to have two phone calls, didn't we, in the space of like 2 hours?
They changed their mind basically. It was like they were gonna like wine and dine us. They were like, oh, it was all like cryptic. Do you know what I mean? They were like, we'd sent Charlemagne, and Conrad, our manager, rang saying, "Are you free on Friday? They want to take you out for a meal." And we were like, "What does this mean?" And he was like, "I think they might offer you something." And then an hour later, he emailed and rang us like, "They've changed. They have offered the deal now." And then they offered us a record deal.
Quality.
And he was like, "We're not in abundance of like offers." So we were like, "Let's just go for it," and we just did. I remember the call. I remember driving to the old rehearsal room. That was a big moment, because that was like, okay, we've got the record deal now, and we were like,
I think what's mint about it as well,
we'd learned a bit more in that year of getting pushed back, and we were like, we're not going to let this fuck up.
I feel like what was mint about it as well is we were all together. Like, we're all in my car, my little Fiat Punto.
I thought it was Charlie's Clio.
No, it was my Fiat. Yeah. And I remember I was driving, and he tried to ring you, and it didn't work. You had to double signal, and he rang me. I remember getting my phone out of my pocket and passing it, you going, "Conrad's ringing me," and you're answering it, and then we were outside that pub, you remember, on the corner near the Morrisons, and we were like, and he said it, and we were like, I just remember looking in the mirror and seeing like the lads and just being like, "Oh my fucking God," do you know what I mean? Like,
like, this is it now. Record deal. That was the album deal. Was the one we wanted.
No joke. I started looking at Audis to buy. Never happened. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Didn't
Hey,
happen.
Tom and Joe, great to speak with you.
Thanks so much.
I feel like we can speak for a long time.
Yeah, I don't know if we've covered the things you wanted to cover. Just chatting shit.
This is it. It's stories. It's storytelling. Blossoms in the Blossoms.
Yeah.
You named it after this pub. It's a great name. It's a great pub.
Do you know what? We didn't drink it, weirdly, but because the A6 here, you used to get the bus down all the way, all the time to Manchester. It's like the cheapest way to get into Manchester on the 192. I remember one time being on the bus with Tom, and Tom would be like, "That's a mint name." And at first it was going to be like Tom
for a band.
Yeah, it was going to be like Tom Ogden and the Blossoms, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because you were like, "I'm writing these new songs." Like I said before, I was like basically trying to weasel in and being Tom's manager. Do you know what I mean? It didn't work. And then I started a band with Charlie, and Tom was like, "Fucking hell, you can play drums, play drums."
And people around here love it. Like if you're from the town and there's the local band that gets popular and you love the band and they're great and they're named after a local boozer, great.
So I think it's the hardest thing is naming the band. Like,
we had that before the band.
Yeah, before the band was together. I always liked the name Blossoms for a band. I just thought it was.
It's colourful.
Yeah, visually as well. It's like even. Do you know what I mean? Like the B and the L, the two S's in the middle. Like for some reason, it went in over years of driving past it. So once we got together as like a musical collective, it was always going to be that.
Yeah.
Which was just like easy, right, done.
Yeah.
And the reason, and going back to Temples, the reason it's not the Blossoms is because of Temples, I think. Because they were just Temples and it wasn't the Temples.
Yeah.
And we thought that was a cool thing. So Blossoms, not the Blossoms, was, thinking back, it was like just a copy of that thing. Which
Funny
I think is interesting. You don't realise now, but it's like, there was no need for the, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just like its own thing.
Yeah. Memorable name as well. If you get a memorable band name, you're halfway there.
It's easy as well, isn't it? Like, it's not, some bands' names, it's kind of like, say that again?
Yeah.
What was that?
Yeah,
like
all the time.
Whereas it's just the Vril Society.
Yeah, we were good friends with them.
Say that again?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and they were really good. We used to talk early days and stuff, but everyone used to always say the same thing, like, what was that band on?
Yeah.
What were they called? Do you know what I mean? Whereas like Blossoms, it's like, you can't really.
It's easy.
Even I can spell it, so do you know what I mean?
Just to end with, talking about work and life and kind of changes where you're like, okay, I've made the wrong decision here. But then, or I've done the wrong thing by accident, or I fucked up, or I've made a mistake, and it sort of puts your life on a different path or changes you and makes you realise a big lesson. What are the ones that come to mind for you?
Well, for example, Josh in our band has never worked. He's never had a job. One, because he was so young. Do you know what I mean? He physically couldn't get a job. This has been his only job. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes you're like, God, you've never done that thing where you're just like, do you know, like impending doom of like the shift? Do you know what I mean? Do you remember that? Like, where you're just like, oh God, like that Sunday night where you're sort of chilling, you're like, I've got work tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? And then you're just like gutted. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh no. Yeah, I always think like Josh has never had that. Maybe he has it with the band because he's never experienced it with anything else. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he's weird,
he was 15 when he joined the band. Like he was doing his GCSEs.
That's what I mean. It's not his own. It's our fault for inviting him. He's such young. We should have been like, get your experience first, lads. Do you know what I mean? Then come in. Do you know what I mean?
Send them off with a packet of crisps and a tenner.
Exactly.
Find your way home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. Because every mistake is a lesson learned, isn't it? So it's weird. I feel like it's easy to, but when you've sort of done it and you're living in the band now, well, I don't know. Like, say there could have been something where there was one gig where we got pissed and it never went anywhere. Like, oh, maybe if we didn't get pissed that gig, it would have been better. But I feel like because where we are, we're sort of like everything's been good, and everything that has been bad, like Tom mentioned, you might look back at something and go, oh, that wasn't the best. And we've changed it. Do you know what I mean? So it's, I don't know, weirdly, I feel like there's not really been a stage where I've been like, that was really stupid. Do you know what I mean? We should have changed that.
The band less so in terms of decisions and stuff. I think it's probably more personal.
Would you have still gone to uni?
No.
What would you have studied at uni?
You did.
No, I did a HND and then had the option to like. I basically just didn't know what I wanted to do. I was just like muddling through, and then did a HND, and then jibbed. I didn't go and do the degree. I was just like,
but you're really, and you've done that loads within the band, so it's weird, isn't it? Because then again, sort of like going against it, because music videos, Tom edits loads of them. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, nice.
And that's what I would have gone into. Yeah. That's like another passion. Really,
even like
there's still time, isn't
there?
there
is still time, I suppose.
And you could do that alongside being in the band.
No, I've said this loads. I'd like, Tom needs to make a feature film. Do you know what I mean? I'll produce it or something. Do you know what I mean? I need to do something, weasel my way in again. Do you know what I mean? But I've it need to do like some sort of feature film or something like that, because it'd be just an interesting take.
What I was going back to was more, I feel like there's been self-development in terms of learning a lot from being in the band, because it's not a normal experience, you know what I mean?
No.
So I think like I've got, like now I feel like I've come out of being a bit like confused about how to deal with it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So that would be like my learning thing from it. But no decisions like the band has specifically made, if you know what I mean. It's like my own approach to this shit, if you know
the
what I
record
mean.
sounds like it. It's free, it's fun. It's green as well, it's a bit green. Yeah, it's young.
It's weird, because that was actually like a conscious effort. Do you know what I mean? To be like, let's go back to how, like, we actively went to Wales and locked ourselves away, because we said we used to sort of come in and sit in a room and make music together. Like, let's go away where we don't have them adult distractions of like,
your life changes, doesn't it? Like, we're all a bit older. Like, we're in like, I'm married, Joe's getting married. Like, it is different. Like, than when you're 21. You can just stay in the rehearsal room till midnight when you're 21.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's a bit like, hang on a minute, like, we've got shit to do. Do you know what I mean? So you're kind of like juggling real life and then being in a band. Like, it's not, that's probably the hardest juggle, I would say.
Well, I think being in a band's youthful, isn't it? Like, if you're like, is that like, watch School of Rock, do you know what I mean? The fact that he's seen as like a douchebag sort of loner, like low life, is because he's still trying to make it in a band, even though his brother's like this thingy and he's got an apartment, he's not paying rent. Do you know what I mean? Like, that whole idea, but it's true, innit? Like, when you're like, if you're 30 odd, say if I was 30 odd and was like, I'm in a band, and some didn't know they sort, you can see it now. If I'm speaking to someone, they don't know who Blossoms are, and I say I'm in a band, you can see the face going, what do you really do? Do you know what I mean? You can and it's weird, isn't it? Because it's a youthful thing to be a band, like it.
And it's even better that you've been able to like let that greenness shine. And like, I'm a big believer in like staying green. I want to be that 75-year-old who is a bit silly. That's fun. You know,
I think that was the decision to call it Gary as well. We had a few other ideas, and that we were kind of toying with, what should it be? And eventually I was just like, I think it should be fucking Gary. Do you know what I mean? It felt right for where we're at, if you know what I mean. Like, it was the antithesis to be like this deep, meaningful, all-encompassing. I was like, fuck it, Gary. That's what it is. That's what felt right. Trust your gut is what, and my gut was that, basically.
Awesome. Hey, thank you so much. Good chat,
mate.
Thanks for showing us around.
We
know the area now.
That's it now. Moving.
One big street. This is the strip. Everything's just off here.
So there was Tom and Joe from Blossoms here on 101 Part-Time Jobs. Thanks a lot for being here. If you enjoyed that chat, make sure you click subscribe. We put out 2 episodes every week, and we'd love to have you along. Blossom's new album, Gary, is out on Friday. Make sure you pre-save that. Order it if you can from your local independent record store. And hopefully, it'll be their 4th number 1.
101 Part-Time Jobs is hosted by Giles Bidder and produced by me, Olivia Swash. This has been a Mighty Moon Media production.
I'm Victoria Cash, and I want to invite you to a place called Lucky Land, where you can play over 100 social casino-style games for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. So what are you waiting for? The best way to discover your luck is to spin. So go to LuckyLandSlots.com, that's LuckyLandSlots.com, and get lucky today. At Lucky Land.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.